Hello, and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host today. We're starting off an international week. Arsenal's headed to Dubai. What do you mean it's not an international week, Nigel?
Well,
I wore my Three Lions shirt. What do you mean it's not an international week?
It's an international week for some of us who are traveling. Just
for some of us who are traveling. Yes, because Arsenal are out of the cups. This is the We All Follow podcast. Arsenal out of the cups. Tottenham and Liverpool play today in the second leg of the other semifinal of the EFL Cup. And let's get into it, Nigel. So follow us after our fine friends. Follow us on X at We All Follow Pod. What should their moment of the week be, Nigel?
Well, it'd be pretty obvious if I went for a Miles Lewis Skelett sat on the floor doing an Erling Haaland celebration, or if I had Gabriel tapping Erling on the back and going 5 and then clapping him, and that'd be too easy to choose the moment of the week.
It would be very easy.
My moment of the week was not at the Emirates Stadium. My moment of the week was at Old Trafford.
Ooh. Do tell.
My moment of the week was Jean-Philippe Mateta kung fu kicking a corner flag. Not once, but twice. And Manchester United realising that all is not well with Ruben Interim.
Not all is well at Old Trafford. Not only is Old Trafford falling down, but their manager might be falling down too.
I'll tell you now, it's not scaremongering. There is definitely a growing number of ex-Man United players who are saying it live they're saying it on TV, they're saying it on radio, they're saying it on social media, that he's not got a free pass here. And yeah, we understand how much work he's got to do to try to turn it around, but Erik ten Hag with the same bunch of players was getting better results. Erik ten Hag had not lost 5 out of 7 home games. At least he was getting results now and again. They're pretty even, weren't it? He's coming and he's with the same group of players. They seem to be playing worse, especially at home. They are playing worse. But yeah, so that's my moment of the week is Jean-Philippe Mateta going full Jackie Chan in the corner flag.
Bruce Lee, the corner flag. Yeah, I think we try to be fair and balanced on this podcast, unlike certain American cable news channels that might call themselves fair and balanced. But, I think there's no choice but to discuss, once again, friend of the show, Alexander Isak, because this guy is he's a superstar. I really don't think there's many other ways to describe what he does and how he does it. The way that he makes runs, the way that he comes deep, the way that he spins and turns. He really can do it all. And when you look at him, you might see somebody who at first glance is like frail or slender, right? He's definitely slender. You might think that he's frail, but he's anything but. He's strong in the challenge. He had William Saliba, who, I think is certainly one of the top center backs in the league, if not in the world, is certainly in the top 5 in that position in the league. And Alexander Isak made him look like he was playing in the championship. He just totally owned him. He had the disallowed goal, which was an amazing strike. He had the one that hit off the post that what was it? Murphy ended up slamming home, which that was a really nice finish too. A hard finish from an angle where the ball's coming back at you really fast. But yeah, Alexander Isak, man, I think that guy is worth every single cent of however much anybody's willing to pay for him, whether that's 120 or if you told me that was 150 million dollars, I would snap your hand off and make the deal, because he is worth every penny of that, and potentially more, to a team that is like Arsenal, that has all of the pieces except for that spectacular number 9, right? And I think over the 2 legs, I don't think Arsenal played their best, but whatever. That's not what it's about, right? You have 2 legs. You have 180 minutes to show your quality, and you had one team that had almost 5 xG and scored 0 goals, and you had one team that had 3 xG and scored 4 goals, right? And they could have had several more. Whereas the Arsenal chances were more of an accumulation rather than these amazing chances that they didn't take. So, a tale of 2 cities, a tale of 2 teams, a tale of clinical finishing, both with Gordon and Isak. Gordon, who I like to call Dobby, certainly an underrated player within the league. I think he's one of the best wingers in the league. And
if you knew what Coronation Street were, Matt, you'd know that why we all call him Sally Webster.
Yes, I've searched this before, but I still can't get off of, he wants the sock. But moving on to bigger and better things, the transfer window closed, right? That was something that happened since the last time we had a podcast. Let's talk about some big moves. There was Marcus Rashford, who looked like he was on a 15-day bender before arriving in Birmingham to sign with Aston Villa. Man, he looked rough. And I try to be really. Marcus Rashford has taken a lot of stick in the media over the years. He's gotten what you might call the Saul Campbell treatment. If I send this picture, it's about color. But Marcus Rashford looked like he looked rough, man.
Yeah, he not only did he look rough. Do you know what? It's when you were hearing some of the things what he was saying and how he was saying it. I think that was a person who, I think he knew why he was there. I think he knew why he was at Villa. I don't think he actually believed that he'd done it. You know what I mean? It was like he was living something out, what he didn't actually think was real. Tell you now, just watch it again, watch his interview again, and there's a glaze in his eyes where he's just like, I don't think he quite understands that he's not Man United anymore. But do you know what? I kind of sympathise with him, because if you'd been somewhere since you were 7, 8, 9-year-old, and you were 27 now, and all of a sudden you weren't going back to that same place, you weren't seeing the same people, it was completely different. You were like, and it's just happened. It's gone foul pretty quick, hasn't it? Because let's just say, when Eric Ten Hag was in charge, Marcus Rashford was playing. All of a sudden, Amorim comes in, is not playing. Now, I don't buy that you go from playing and must be training quite well to not training well and not playing. I don't buy that it changes like that. Something obviously different has happened. I think it might be a bit like Eric Ten Hag and Cristiano Ronaldo. You know how he just quickly was like, no, not having you. I think it's kind of one of them.
It's hard to see. It's hard to say if it was the management or the manager, right?
Yeah.
Because it could be the management taking the opportunity, right?
But they've tanked the value of their own asset. They've distressed their own asset by leaving him out, saying that he's crap trainer, saying this, that. You just tank your own asset. But Villa have took him on. Now, like I said, he looked a bit like a rabbit in the headlights when he was doing his interview. That's after it looked like it'd been on your 15-day bender. But I'll be interested to see what he does, because I think he could absolutely take off at Villa. Genuinely. If you put him in a team, with Watkins up front, he can play left wing. They've got a right wing. They've got very, very capable right wingers now in Bailey. You play Ramsey out there if you want. You can play Rashford on the left, play Ramsey on the left. You got Asensio now as well, who can play both sides. You've also got Rodgers in between. You've got Rodgers behind. Then you've got your two holding midfielders, and it can be anyone. It can be Camara, Tielemans, Onana, McGinn. Yeah, you've got 4 players wanting that place. I just think they're set up. I think Villa are set up. I'm glad we've played them twice. I'm glad we've already played them twice. I think they're set up to do damage. Same as City, I know we beat City. I know Arsenal beat City 5-1 on Sunday. But Marmoush, Nico Gonzalez, Kushanov, Rice, they will come in, especially Marmoush and Gonzalez will make a huge difference for them, especially Gonzalez. Gonzalez is the one because it was pretty evident when they played Arsenal that they've got no legs in midfield, and Gonzalez will give them legs. So there were 3 more big signings from this window: Marmoush, Gonzalez, and Kushanov. But I think Marmoush and Gonzalez are the 2 for City will make a huge difference. I mean, big difference. Another team I'm glad we've played twice. Liverpool have got to play them at the Etihad in about 4 weeks' time. City are now in a top 4 battle. They're in a battle for top 4. I do think that Liverpool game, though, comes either side of them playing Real Madrid. So I don't think it falls great in terms of the fixture, but genuinely, I think that them 2 could make a huge difference, City, and possibly propel them up towards 3rd place. But it's going to be a tough ask for them, It's going to be a tough ask because City have got Newcastle, Bournemouth, Villa, all breathing down the neck. Fulham aren't out of it yet. Fulham are not out of it. Fulham went to Newcastle and won. They can beat anyone over there. Fulham, they're a good solid side. But I think it's down to 8th place. I think really it's down to 8. So Villa, Bournemouth, Newcastle, City, Chelsea, Forest. 2, possibly 3 from them 6 are going to get Champions League. I think Arsenal and Liverpool are nailed on.
A lot to dissect there, Nigel. So we talked about, briefly touched on the big Arsenal win against Man City at home at the Emirates. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. Does Pep Guardiola have a Mikel Arteta problem?
Yes, he's got a big problem. And the problem, what he's got is, I think people try to paint Mikel as a Pep disciple, Pep's protege. Oh, you're just trying to, it's a copy and paste. It's copy and paste, Man City. Mikel is so far diverged from Pep. It is crazy. We are chalk and cheese. Yeah, the only thing what's pretty similar is that they're both possession-based teams. They like to keep possession because both managers know if you've got the ball, the other team can't score. But when the other team has the ball, you need to be able to defend well. This is where the 2 teams are massively different. Arsenal's team are built to suffer. They are built to suffer. They are built to be able to play in a low block, put up massive resistance, kill passing lanes, and just absolutely shut a game down. They could play for 20, 25 minutes without the ball, chasing it, and not break down. City are not built like that. City need to have the ball to be able to survive. And I think that's that is the huge difference. Out of possession is the biggest difference between City and Arsenal. So this is Pep's problem. I think Mikel, with his background playing under David Moyes, playing at Rangers as well, was another one. Understanding from Wenger. Yeah, we played nice football under Arsene, but Arsene was a bit of a terrorist now and again. We would play. We'd shut shop up 0-0, get a late goal. We could do that. We regularly played with 10 men, so it was Vieira loved us sending off. So we regularly played with 10 men. So, but yeah, Mikel definitely from Moyes is definitely got that terrorist gene where he will decide that it's time for a bit of haram and we'll go full on Brexit, back to the wall. And that's the difference. City can't do it. City can't do that, and that's Pep's problem. Pep's problem is every time he comes up against Arsenal, we do something different what you don't expect. So previously we've done the backs to the wall. We've gone to the Etihad and played them at football, and we were winning 2-1 until Mikel Oliver decided to get involved, and we were beating them at their own game. This time we decided to drop Martin Ødegaard into the 6 and play Partey and Rice higher up. When we'd got the ball, we had Martin Ødegaard between the 2 centre backs and pushed Partey and Rice up. It completely bamboozled, because if you watch it at first, I can't remember. I think it was John Stones followed Ødegaard. He'd been tasked to pick up Ødegaard, followed him towards the halfway line, and then you can see him get a nosebleed. You go, "Oh, I'm not going any further," and starts going back. And when he goes back, Partey's got the ball. Partey's in that space, and they completely bamboozled him. Because 1 minute Ødegaard's back in the defensive bit, and then when we've lost the ball, he's all the way up at the other end, and he's counter pressing Mikel. It was as bad as what Ødegaard's played recently. He was one of Pep's biggest problems on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that puts Pep with 0 wins in the last 5 matches against Arsenal. The last victory for Pep in this tie was April of 2023 in the Premier League, 4-1.
It was a Rob Holding game.
Yep, the Rob Holding game.
Matt, that is the last time that Arsenal lost a Big 6 Premier League match.
I remember it. It was painful. But that brings us into the table after this past week's results. So Liverpool still 6 points ahead of Arsenal on 56. That Arsenal, as we said, in second on 50. Then Forest, Chelsea, Man City, rounding up potentially what could be the Champions League places, depending on how teams progress. Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Villa, I guess you could say Fulham as well, in the chasing pack to get into Europe. Brighton rounding out the top 10. Then we get into the second half of the table with Brentford on 31 points. Palace moving up pretty quickly into 12th on 30 points. Man United stuck in 13th. Spurs getting out of the relegation battle by getting a win this past weekend. They're on 27 points, tied with West Ham. Everton are continuing to stack up the points. That's 3 wins in a row for them. Wolves getting a really big win for them, keeping them above the drop zone. And then can you hear me? It's Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton in the drop zone. So, let's do a little. I guess one thing is jumping around a little bit, right? There is the next, like you said, Manchester City will be playing Real Madrid in the Champions League, right? The Champions League draw has come out. It's still kind of funny because there's going to be another draw after this set of games. So, for example, Arsenal could play one of Juventus, PSV, Feyenoord, or Milan, right? So that could go depending on how the draw goes. It's a closed draw. For the Man City Real Madrid game, the winner of that is going to either play Atletico Madrid or Leverkusen. So that's who those teams have the opportunity to play. Big, like we discussed last time, there's going to be big teams in this round of 16. PSG are playing Brest, so that's going to be like your League One matchup. Atalanta against Club Brugge. Like we said, Man City, Real Madrid, Juventus, PSV. I think that one's going to be a fun one. Monaco, Benfica coming back to get into the next round. Sporting Club de Portugal against Borussia Dortmund. Celtic against Bayern, and then like a last one, Feyenoord Milan. When we look at those matchups, obviously the big one is the Man City Real Madrid game. One of those teams will not be making it into the round of 16. How do you feel about the new format, and potentially one of the biggest clubs in the world, arguably for either of them, right? Getting knocked out in this such early in the competition.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's what I think. You don't want dead rubber games. You don't want dead rubber games. And the idea of this format, the Swiss League format, was great. My only gripe is you could look at it and say, "Oh, it's been fantastic." Some big teams have got knocked out. Leipzig's gone. Yeah, they're gone. And some other good sides have struggled. I think Stuttgart failed. They got knocked out as well, didn't they? I think Stuttgart are out. Bologna gone. But yeah, you look at some of the teams who snuck through, and so on the plus side, you think, do you know what? Some teams have got through who you never expected to get through, as in automatic. Who expected Aston Villa to be an automatic qualifier? No one. Yeah, but some teams got through automatic. Monaco, another one. I wouldn't have expected them to be through automatic. Lille automatic. I think they were, weren't they?
Yes,
Lille.
yes.
Yeah. So they're the ones who you wouldn't expect to be automatic, right? But the flip side of it is, my gripe is, Man City have got through and they scraped through, and basically it's allowed the bigger teams. If you are quite happy, so if you're a big team now, you know, like an Arsenal, a Real Madrid, Barcelona, blah 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 blah. If you are a big team, this format does allow you, and I know it's not a choice, but if you thought, you know what, I'm quite happy to take the jeopardy of the knockout round and rest a few players during group games. Yeah. Knowing if I get 10 points, if I get 11 points, we're going to be through. So I can take the jeopardy of resting some players in some games if I've got a big league game, either before or after. That's my only gripe. Because
yeah, I mean that works out. That works out if you're playing. No disrespect to Brest or Club Bruges, right? But when you get drawn against Real Madrid, you could be having an early summer.
This is the jeopardy. That's the jeopardy. What you've got. If you're willing to risk it, you could put. If you don't think you can win the Champions League, right? But you still think you can qualify, but you think you could possibly get the league or get into top four again. If you're not a regular top 4 team, you could get in again by doing this. You've got a chance. It has given the big teams a bit of an out. If they've had a bit of an off campaign, PSG, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern, they've not had a great campaign, but they've got through. Juve, AC Milan, they've got through. But I think this next round of games is great because there's going to be some big teams going. I mean, I can remember. I can't physically remember. I know this happened when Nottingham Forest were the European champions. They got drawn, I think, against Liverpool in the first round. You know, when it used to be a straight knockout, straight draw. There was no country separation. So they were the current holders, and they got drawn against Liverpool in the first round. I mean, so it was the best team in England against the European champions in the first round. I mean, that's bonkers. But that's pretty much what we've got in this playoff round. We've got Man City versus Real Madrid. I think it's great. I think that's great. I do love, and it is a little bit weird how it's worked out like this. But you've got Juve versus PSV, Italy versus Netherlands, Milan versus Feyenoord, Italy versus Netherlands, which is quite interesting. And I'll tell you what's going to happen in that Milan Feyenoord game, which, if I was a Feyenoord fan, I'd be fuming. Santi Jimenez has been their best striker for 2.5 seasons. He's now playing for AC Milan. He's now eligible to play in the knockout round. You just know who is going to score for AC Milan against Feyenoord. It's just written in the stars, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the difference now, like you said, with the new rules where there is no cup ties for the Champions League. So if you move in the middle of the season, you can play for the new team. There is a limit of how many new players can be registered per team, which I think Aston Villa might have a little bit of trouble with in terms of all of their new additions and picking who's going to get registered on that side.
Is it
But
two or three? Is it 2 or 3?
I believe it's 3, if I remember correctly. But I think Villa brought in 4 players that they might want to put into that selection. But on the flip hand, like you were saying, in terms of having that extra games, for a team like Arsenal who's through to the next round, or even a team like Villa who has been suffering with some injury issues, then if you can bypass those legs and get your next one in March, then late March, ultimately mid to late March, then you have the opportunity to get some players back. Arsenal will certainly be looking for Bukayo Saka to be back in and around that time to participate in that the next round of the knockouts. So yeah, it's going to make for a lot of fun football. I think the extra matches is definitely adding up. I think for fans, as we've seen at some Arsenal matches, those later Champions League ties where there was a lot of seats available, depending on clubs. I think Arsenal had, 5 home games in 18 days or something crazy like that. Or was it six home games in 18 days? So, it's testing the fans, it's testing the wallets, it's certainly increasing the TV product, right? Like as somebody who lives overseas and I get to watch extra games and the matches are good and it's not Consonant FC against Man City on a Wednesday where nobody cares. So it's increasing the quality, but for match going fans, it's definitely creating a different set of issues in terms of the fixture congestion and just the quantity of games that we're asking people to show up for. So that brings us to switching back into the Premier League. Before we get in touch on some FA Cup stuff, let's chat Merseyside Derby. That's going to be our next Premier League match, which is going to be Wednesday after the FA Cup weekend. That's the only match midweek this next week. So who you got? Is David Moyes going to pull out a peak haram ball?
I think you might see David Moisinho special. Have you got the league table? Because I just want to. There's something interesting actually and the reason why I point to this is about the league table, right? Can you see Everton? Have you seen Everton? Just down there, 16th place. They've not got double-figure losses yet, and they've only got a -5 goal difference. -5. So they're 16th, but only a -5 goal difference. They are hard to score against. 28 goals conceded in the league. Yeah. If you look down the league table, goals against, Everton, the only teams who've conceded less than Everton are Forest, Arsenal, and Liverpool, the top 3. They aren't pushovers. Bearing in mind that in that 28, they lost 4-0 at Man United. Lost 4-0 away at Man United. Man United, one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. Yeah. So there's only the bottom 3 and Everton who've scored less than Man United. So you got to looking at their results. I think they're in a false place. I think Everton are in a false position in the table, and I think I actually fancy them to get a draw or win in the Merseyside Derby. Not fancifully thinking as an Arsenal fan this is going to happen. I actually think Everton are on form. They've hit some form. Moyes has got them playing. Players look very, very confident at the moment, and if Everton get a win, they will go above Man United into 13th. Which, I mean, if I was a Tottenham, West Ham, Man U fan, I'd been starting to worry because Everton are on a roll, Palace are on a roll. Can Wolves pick up a head of steam now they've got some players back? Possibly. And at that point, the bottom three are cut adrift, but you're perilous. If any of them start picking up anything, then them other teams are in for a rough ride. I think I like Everton. I think Everton and Palace are the two teams what I think are in the wrong place in the table. I think both of them should be higher.
I mean, the thing with Everton has been they've been unable to score, right? That's been their biggest issue. They're keeping the goals out and they can't score, right? And yeah, same as Palace. So, you know, you potentially, obviously, scoring 4 against Leicester, is that great? Not necessarily, but you know, they put 3 past Spurs the other day. You know, they're starting to find some goals, and I think that is a dangerous proposition if you are a Liverpool. You know, it's going to be a rabid day. It's going to be a night game. I'm certain that people are going to be calling out sick to work and starting drinking very early in the morning. Like, it's going to be, I can't wait to watch it. It's, you know, that's been one of the unique things about the Premier League, about English football in general, is the old grounds, right? And being around American sports, like, you have these awesome stadiums like SoFi, for example, and they're sweet. They're awesome for the fan experience in the ground, like in terms of like being able to get food and being able to get drinks and all that stuff. It's really wonderful, but there's nothing that compares to the types of atmospheres that you can generate in those small stadiums where it's tight to the pitch. There's not a lot of room, and it's really loud. We even saw that yesterday up at St. James's Park, where, I mean, you would have thought that there was no Arsenal fans there, right? Like, it was so loud. And granted, at St. James's Park, they put the away fans on the upper back, furthest away from the field as humanly possible. But even that being said, right, like, there was how many 5,000 Arsenal fans there, and you would have thought that there were 50. And that's no disrespect to the away fans, but that's just how loud the home fans were, and it's a true advantage, right? So it's going to be a tough game.
Do you know that's illegal though? What Newcastle do? Do you know it's against the Premier League rules?
Yeah, I'm certain it is.
They pay a fine. They pay a fine every home game. They pay a fine because the Premier League stipulates that there should be a section of the away fans should be pitch side. So
yeah, I mean, you know, if it was me, I would be take my money. You know what I mean? Because the advantage that you generate from that is undeniably more useful than however many £1,000 that they're going to find you. I mean, look at Bournemouth. Their stadium is small, and they've been in the Premier League for how long? You're supposed to have a certain number of away fans. They've gotten away with not expanding their stadium and not increasing the away allocation. And if I was them, I wouldn't do it either until somebody forced me to, right? Like, you got to, in this day and age, in the competitive landscape that we're talking about, you got to squeeze out every single possible advantage that you possibly can.
I think you're right though about the stadium though. I think it's going to be magical at Goodison next week, and I think it'll be a proper derby. I've just got a feeling that something's going to happen, that Everton are going to do something. And I said a few weeks ago, I said around this time, I think is prime Barclays time for Liverpool. They've got some tough games. They were lucky at Bournemouth. How Justin Kluivert missed from 3-yard out, shanking it wide, I don't know. They had some rough look at in post bar and stuff like that. But I think that this is a time. I think Everton, especially with how Moyes has got on playing, I just think that's something they could have a good result there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at historically, Liverpool have won, I believe it's twice in the last 12 trips to Goodison Park. You know, they don't lose a lot there. You know, they did lose a lot of draws in this fixture when it's played at Everton. And you're talking about the last 9 years where Everton have been in the mud and Liverpool have been winning or right there with Manchester City. So even when Liverpool are flying, as they say, form goes out the window. Even when they've been flying, they have not quite been able to get the results at Goodison. Last big match at Goodison, probably in the history, a wonderful stadium that has, served many generations of Everton fans, and me personally, I'll be sad to see it go at the end of the season. But let's break into the FA Cup, which is a competition that still exists despite Arsenal not being a part of it. This weekend we have Man United. So the FA Cup is kind of cool. We have matches 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. We have matches all week with the FA Cup, so it's nice. If you are the proverbial neutral and are just tuning in to watch a good match, there's going to be matches on every day pretty much for the next week and a half. So, we have your typical big team, small team, Leyton Orient hosting Man City. That should be a fun day out for the Leyton Orient fans. Hey, maybe they might get a result based on the way Man City have been playing lately. Southampton Burnley is one that stands out as a hipster's pick. Can you do it on a rainy night in Stoke if you're Cardiff? A derby, right? Newcastle, Birmingham. That's a northeastern geographic.
Birmingham is miles away from Newcastle.
It's close enough, you know what I mean? We're talking. You're arguing semantics with me, Nigel. How come when Aston Villa and Newcastle play, it's a derby, but not when Birmingham and Newcastle play? It is a derby. If you ask the fans, the real people, Nigel. No. But we got Brighton, Chelsea in the other Premier League matchups. We got Villa, Spurs, and then we got, like we talked about, or not that we talked about, but Everton will be hosting Bournemouth this weekend. In the other Premier League matchup. What sticks out to you?
I'll tell you what. The no one likes us versus no one likes us derby. The two hated teams playing each other. Leeds, Millwall. That's not going to be a sight for the purists. Not on the pitch, in the stands. That's a policeman's nightmare, Leeds versus Millwall. Honestly. Anyone around Ellen Road on that day, I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't have got anywhere near it. That is going to be carnage. It's funny, actually. Southampton Burnley is interesting. I think Burnley have conceded 9 goals all season. Southampton at the moment are scoring quite freely of it, but they can't not concede. So Burnley, I think, now have had 12 0-0s this season and conceded 9 goals. So Southampton Burnley is either going to be 5-5 or it's going to be 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, Burnley, in terms of the numbers, Burnley has no losses in their last 19 matches. They have not conceded in 5 matches. And Southampton's gone 4 matches without a clean sheet. And there's been more than 2.5 goals in 7 out of their last 7 matches. So,
I mean, Manuel Leicester tomorrow night, Friday night, is going to kick it all off, and that for me is going to be a big indicator of where Man U are, because I think Ruud van Nistelrooy will have Leicester up for that. I think he'll have them up for it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jamie Vardy on the score sheet. I think Everton Bournemouth is a big game, especially for Moyes. I don't see him resting any players for the derby. I think he'll try to win that game. They will try to win. That could be blood and thunder. Birmingham Newcastle is going to be interesting. Birmingham are flying in League One, and Newcastle going to St Andrews. St Andrews, what this year has been a bit of a fortress. I know Newcastle are a much better side. That's not a nice ground to go to. St Andrews is not a nice ground to go to as an away team. Chelsea Brighton, Premier League standard. I just expect that to be like a Premier League game. Same as I think Villa Tottenham will be a Premier League game. But will we see Marcus Rashford doing to Tottenham what he usually does when he plays for Man U? I think we'll do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Circling back to Burnley, Scott Parker having what one might call a renaissance as Burnley manager, playing a slightly bit different style than he was known for at his last stop, but obviously getting the results. Burnley currently in second place after 31 matches, just 5 points behind the leaders. Like you said, 37 goals for and only 9 goals against. So they haven't been the highest scoring team, but they've certainly been keeping them out of the back. They have 16 wins and 13 draws with only 2 losses. And they are in what, they're in a good position to potentially directly qualify for the Premier League.
Yeah. I'll tell you 2 other games as well for Premier League sides, which could be banana skins. All right. I wouldn't want to go to Doncaster on Monday night if I'm Crystal Palace, because that'll be bouncing. The Keepmoat will be bouncing. It used to be called Keepmoat. I don't know if it's still called the Keepmoat Stadium, Doncaster Stadium. It used to be. But that's going to be bouncing. That will be bouncing, and it'll be loud. But the one what genuinely is a proper banana skin. I can remember Liverpool going there and getting a 1-1 draw, I think, at Exeter. Exeter on a Tuesday night, and if it's raining down in the southwest, it usually rains horizontally, not downwards. It rains horizontally. That is wide open, horizontal rain, wind, nasty. I wouldn't want to be Forest. Exeter used to it. I would not want to be Forest. It's that. Do you know what that is, Matt? If in American terms, that's like going to Buffalo in late December. Oof. It's like going to Buffalo in late December.
You're going to have a hard time.
They can play the snow. They love the snow. It's like going to crap Green Bay in January. Yeah. Then they love the fridge. They love the frigid conditions. They're not bothered. Yeah. You can be the best team in the world going to play the worst Packers team ever, but because it's
going to be a game.
So going down to Exeter, if it's raining and windy on a Tuesday night, no thanks. I wouldn't even take Real Madrid.
For those keeping score at home, Doncaster Stadium is now called the Eco Power Stadium, capacity of 15,000, and it will certainly be packed to the gills as they take on Crystal Palace on Monday. So, Nigel, any closing notes before we get out of here?
Yeah, just I think that people. I've seen a lot of discourse lately about. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, the football social media people just decide that they'll just slag players off all the time and be really, really nasty. A lot of the time, it's really nasty stuff as well, and I just don't get it. And we've had it in our WhatsApp group where people have just like gone off on like at maximum head loss. And I always try to say to people, no matter what, why do you let something affect you so badly like that? What you cannot change, you've got no control over. You've got no control. You have no control over what them 11 people are doing on a football pitch on a Saturday or a Sunday. You've got no control over it whatsoever. Why do you let it affect you if you can't control it? The only thing that should ever affect you is things what you control. All right. So yes, you might be disappointed. Someone said, yeah, but we're emotionally tied to it. I went, well, I am. I've been a fan as long as anyone. Yeah. But at some point you have to realize that they don't even know you're alive. Apart from you having a membership number or maybe a season ticket, they don't even know that you exist. Yeah. So why are you wasting precious nervous energy, speech? Why are you wasting it? Why are you wasting on it? Just sit back, relax, and just think. There's always next Saturday. There's always the next game. There's always the next game. You don't have to have an head loss. And I just want people just to calm down a bit. And after Dubai, if you're an Arsenal fan, after Dubai, this is our time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we live in a tough world, Nigel, and obviously I live in America, you live in the UK. Like in the scheme of the world, we are immensely blessed and advantage over 99.99% of the world's population, right?
Mhm.
So like I think a lot of it is perspective, right? And we all have challenges in our life, whether we were born in America or the UK or anywhere else. Everybody has stuff that they're going through. And I think people really look to sports to get a relief from that. And at the same time, if it's bringing you more pain and discomfort and emotional strife, then maybe it is the time to step away, and even from this amazing podcast, right? Maybe unsubscribe if that's what's a problem. But I think ultimately what it really comes down to is, in my humble opinion, is like the mental health situation, right? And that's for all of us. Like, I go to therapy. I know lots of other people who go to therapy and are have normal lives, right? But there's challenges that we all face, and there's people who are professionals who are equipped to talk about these things. And sometimes I think what we're going through and not talking about comes out sideways towards things that we can't control, right? And it's because there's stuff that's going on in our inner sphere that maybe we're not talking about.
And that leads us on to perfectly too. Last week we had the absolutely superb Mark Halsey on the show, discussing refereeing, VAR, PGMOL, etc. And I'm hoping that we get Mark back on in a more permanent way, possibly with someone else, maybe a Keith Hackett, former head of PGMOL, doing some kind of, not a ref watch, not a VAR review, but maybe a, what would we call it? PGMOL performance review weekly. So not only the bad, but also the good. If it's been a good refereeing performance, I think we should get a tick. And on that note, I'd like to give Simon Hooper a big green tick for last night. I thought he refereed the game great.
Yeah, I did think, Simon Hooper has put in some less than stellar performances in the past. I thought he controlled the game really well. He was really, really, really restrained in giving out yellow cards, which in a game of that magnitude, you have to be. And you have to control the game, and you have to nip stuff in the bud, and you have to let the players know that we are going to play hard and tough, but it's going to be fair, right? And it's not going to be dangerous. And I thought both teams did a really good job of riding that line throughout the match. And yes, claps for the referee for his performance, because there was definitely some situations where it could have gone sideways, right? But for both teams.
So the same as Peter Banks on Sunday for Arsenal Man City. I thought he refed it great. He missed one thing. One thing he missed. One thing he missed was Trossard getting hacked down by Bernardo Silva in the corner. He gave the free kick, and then Bernardo kicked Trossard, proper kick on the shin. When it was like that, he should have been off.
Yeah, there was another one before that he had.
Yeah, I don't know how VAR didn't pick that up. But I can't blame the referee for that. VAR should have picked it up. But I thought Peter Banks himself had a great game on Sunday.
I think part of the issue is that that VAR can't give a yellow or suggest a yellow, right? And so I don't think that was. I mean, you call it what. Me, Nigel, I would have been fine with it being a yellow. Had the ref seen it and called it, I think it probably would have been a yellow and not a red. But
I'm sorry, but if you kick out at someone when they're down on the floor, that's violent conduct.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I also I think part of the bigger referee and VAR discussion and all that stuff, which maybe we can leave mostly to another day, is that I want the bar of a red to be high, right? And like for my team and for the opponents, right? Because I think our priority should be having as many games and 11 on 11 as possible in a safe manner, right? And so I don't think that we should be throwing red cards around. I think that we should be cautioning players. And then, obviously, if they make a second challenge and they're not changing their behavior, then yes, they have to get sent off. But I think as a rule, our primary goal should be ending games 11 on 11 and giving both teams a fair chance, because like we've seen already this season, it skews so much. And I think the same thing goes for penalties, right? One goal changes the game so much, right? And so, yes, it might be a foul that occurred in the box, but is it worth giving a team an 80% chance of a goal for that? Right. And maybe there's something else that smart people who are smarter than I can think of have a off for a certain amount of time, or it's a different, not a penalty, but a different type of free kick, to where we can have these fouls that take place that are not penalty worthy. You're not denying the other team from a good opportunity, but that are the punishment fits the crime. Right. And I think if we can work on those two things in a general way, as both the way the rules are written as well as the way the rules are interpreted, I think we can improve the game as a whole. Thanks for joining us today on the We All Follow podcast. Put your moment of the week down in the comments. As we speak, Liverpool have gone level on aggregate against Spurs 1-1. So we'll see how that one turns out, and we'll talk to you next week.